Irene was seen who was now together with Chloe. They seemed to want to talk about something together there. Chloe finally asked why they had to supervise the alliance of China, America, and Russia, which in fact their main enemies were TBM and Pandora. Irene answered innocently if they needed to do that for the safety of Seo Joo-Heon himself. Chloe did not understand why Irene chose to keep an eye on all the threats that would befall Seo Joo-Heon instead of keeping an eye on the most dangerous threat. Irene then explained that all the people who were valuable to Seo Joo-Heon were in Korea, and that was why they had to keep an eye on the Chinese-Russian alliance. Irene continued by mentioning that there were Seo Joo-Heon subordinates guarding the elixir tree in America at this time, and they also had to make sure that everything was safe. Chloe did not understand how much influence Seo Joo-Heon had in her current life, which despite having many enemies, Seo Joo-Heon still had many assets. Chloe began to understand little by little about Seo Joo-Heon's life, which was more successful than her previous life. After a few moments of silence, suddenly Irene's cell phone rang, and immediately Irene picked up the phone. There was the voice of George, who seemed to want to know the condition of Irene and make sure everything was okay. Irene was confused when George mentioned about Seo Joo-Heon now. George explained that Pandora had sent the king of detection to the place where Seo Joo-Heon was because they believed that Seo Joo-Heon had disguised himself as one of the TBM. Irene was surprised to hear that because she didn't understand why they found Seo Joo-Heon managed to realize it so quickly. George also said that this had something to do with Joshua, who interfered in this matter and added to the existing problems. George also asked Irene to inform Seo Joo-Heon, and Irene agreed to George's request, and she was prepared to give all the information she could to Seo Joo-Heon. Chloe also asked what exactly happened now. Irene then explained that she wanted to inform Seo Joo-Heon, but she herself was not sure if she could contact Seo Joo-Heon on time before it was too late. Irene paused for a moment thinking about what she should do next. After a while thinking about it now, Irene had an idea that flashed in her head. Irene wanted to try something new by using her own power. Meanwhile, in the place where Seo Joo-Heon was seen, several attacks launched by the king of detection. Everyone who was hit by the attack screamed in pain. Even Seo Joo-Heon there was still getting the effects of the attack, and now he knew how strong the strength of the woman was. At such a crucial moment, the crow suddenly appeared and made Seo Joo-Heon worry if he would be caught. Seo Joo-Heon asked for an explanation of who the person referred to by the crow, and it turned out that the person was Heimdall. Seo Joo-Heon had just heard of a relic called Heimdall. He did not know what the power and how the relic worked. Heimdall is a god who has very sharp hearing and vision, and he comes from Nordic mythology. Heimdall is a god who is in charge of guarding the entrance of the gods from all over the world. And because of this power, the relic user, Heimdall, can be classified as a king. Seo Joo-Heon asked the crow to do something so that they would not all be caught here. The crow said that if the relic had run out of power, then Seo Joo-Heon would be safe from inspection this time, but the chances of that happening were very small. The crow suggested that they had to do something with the relic. Seo Joo-Heon agreed with the Sto to attack the relic, and they tried not to attract the attention of many people by only appearing themselves directly in front of Heimdall. Seo Joo-Heon clenched his hand and prepared to attack. Afterwards, along with the crow's power, slowly Seo Joo-Heon released from Heimdall's power. Heimdall of course could realize the power of the crow, but unfortunately the crow had prepared his attack before Heimdall could react to what the crow was going to do. Several notification windows said that the crow was currently eating Heimdall's relic in front of him. Heimdall tried to resist the crow's power with all his strength. Even the body of the king of detection itself was now starting to be affected by the crow's attack. The crow realized that he did not have enough strength to carry out the next attack. Seo Joo-Heon was surprised to see a notification window saying that the crow could not eat Heimdall's relic because he was not in his original body now. But slowly, the relic power of the King of Detection was weakening and releasing people who were under his power some time ago. Now, the woman's body condition was getting worse, and with this, the woman reached a conclusion that Seo Joo-Heon was really among the TBM soldiers. But everyone was confused because they did not understand what the King of Detection was trying to talk about because they did not see anything. Even Seung-woo agreed with the others as he didn't see anything and could only feel the energy from the relic released by the King of Detection. But the King of Detection still insisted that he was sure Seo Joo-Heon was in the group he split up here. The unbelieving Yang Chen asked for proof, and it only made the King of Detection more upset for not being trusted. Finally, the woman decided to herself to catch Seo Joo-Heon right now, because she was sure that her power would not be wrong and she was sure that Seo Joo-Heon was here. The King of Detection began to glance at the group he suspected, and he saw Seo Joo-Heon, who was disguised among the soldiers. Then confidently the woman pointed right at Seo Joo-Heon, but Seo Joo-Heon tried to dodge. The woman said that the aura coming out of Seo Joo-Heon's body managed to make the relic inside him tremble. Seo and Julian, who were there, tried to help Seo Joo-Heon get out of this. The woman was about to reuse her power on the disguised Seo Joo-Heon, but it seemed that Heimdall's relic could not work properly because of the wounds inflicted by the crow's power earlier. Seo Joo-Heon smiled as he found out about it, while the King of Detection was now panicking and worried because he couldn't use his powers. Yang Chen went to the woman to ask for clarity, but it seemed that the woman's powers couldn't be used properly now. And seeing the opportunity, Seo Joo-Heon started his acting and drama as if he was an innocent person who was accused. This made Julian and Seo chuckle because they didn't understand what Seo Joo-Heon was trying to do. But thanks to the acting played by Seo Joo-Heon, some of the soldiers there began to be moved and managed to be influenced by the acting of Seo Joo-Heon. Yang Chen also increasingly urged the woman to provide evidence, and when the King of Detection glanced at Seo Joo-Heon, there he saw Seo Joo-Heon, who smiled broadly at him because he managed to trick everyone. The King of Detection began to attack Seo Joo-Heon using his gun. After a few shots were fired, Seo Joo-Heon was able to slightly dodge the bullets. The woman became very angry at Seo Joo-Heon. Even some people there tried to stop and calm her down. Seo Joo-Heon could only run from the woman who was angry at him. The King of Detection was even angry at TBM for not being cooperative, and with that, he tried to do everything himself from now on. The woman told all her subordinates to take out their weapons and find the whereabouts of Seo Joo-Heon. Seung-woo was surprised to see the King of Detection acting on his own without considering the approval of TBM. Meanwhile, Seo Joo-Heon was still trying to escape from the woman's sight. Seo even contacted Seo Joo-Heon through her telepathy to make sure if everything was okay. But when Seo Joo-Heon ran further, he was stopped by one of the soldiers there. The soldier said that he didn't want to just ignore the orders of the King of Detection, and he was also suspicious of Seo Joo-Heon now. Seo Joo-Heon still tried to convince them all by lying, but the soldiers did not believe it. The King of Detection even smiled happily because he managed to make other soldiers affected and suspected Seo Joo-Heon. But before they could act, one of the subordinates of the King of Detection said that they had a big problem now, where the European branch of Pandora had gone bankrupt. They said that several projects made had ended in vain and even made Pandora issue an order for all agents related to Pandora to come and discuss this problem. Because all these bankruptcies hit all the branches in Europe, the woman was even more furious now that she could catch Seo Joo-Heon red-handed. Because she had no other choice, the woman finally just snorted in annoyance and left the place to take care of other things that she thought were more important to do. Seo Joo-Heon himself was even confused about why it could suddenly happen, and one of the possibilities that made sense was Irene, who had used her power to create losses for Pandora. Several soldiers there could only stand by and watch the woman leave. They refocused their attention on Seo Joo-Heon, but Seo Joo-Heon defended that they left because the woman could not provide concrete evidence that she was Seo Joo-Heon. Yang Chen, as the leader there, ordered them to return to work as before. Yoon Si-woo, who heard that, did not accept it because from the beginning the king of detection had put his suspicions on Seo Joo-Heon's disguise, but Yang Chen did not care about that because now conquering the tomb was their top priority. Yoon Si-woo had no choice and he promised himself to keep an eye on Seo Joo-Heon. Yoon Si-woo told all the soldiers who were there to go inside the tomb. Seo and Julian were relieved because at least they were safe from the suspicion raised by the king of detection a few moments ago. But Seo Joo-Heon did not want to stay silent and he ordered the rope relic to attack the king of detection, who had not gone far from this place. Even Seo Joo-Heon allowed the rope relic to choose the relic that she would use to attack and make sure that the woman did not bother Seo Joo-Heon again. And Seo Joo-Heon gave another order for the rope relic to steal the relic owned by the woman if possible. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the king of detection was seen still angry and upset in his car. He still did not understand what really happened to Pandora. The driver in front said that this was the power of the king of bankruptcy, because according to the rumors that Seo Joo-Heon was working with the king of bankruptcy, the woman was even more upset because everything was not going smoothly as she wanted. While her mind was still distracted, suddenly the rope relic attacked the face of the king of detection. Of course, the attack made the woman furious at the rope relic. The rope relic did not care and he wanted the king of detection to apologize to Seo Joo-Heon for disturbing his master. Relic Tailai even threatened if he would blow up this car if the woman did not do what he asked. The woman was a little afraid and anxious about what Relic Tailai would do next, as what Relic Tailai said before he really blew up the car that the king of detection was riding in. In the place where Seo Joo-Heon was, he got a notification window, where now Seo Joo-Heon has gained a new power of stealth, thanks to which he can escape the detection range of the king of detection. Seo Joo-Heon really likes the skill he just got. He really wants to try his new skill, but right now he is being crowded by other soldiers, so he can't do it. And with that, Seo Joo-Heon only needs to be patient, because soon he will be at the entrance to the Tomb of Pride. Along the way to the tomb, there are several buildings on the left and right sides of the road. Yoon Si-woo can even feel the situation there is becoming increasingly tense and terrible. Meanwhile, Julian and Seo smile at each other because they can finally enter the tomb according to their original plan. One of the leaders there said if they all have to get ready because they will soon enter the dangerous area. The leaders there divided the attack group this time into several teams with their respective tasks, and they must be able to complete each task assigned to their team. After the excavation team split into several teams, Seo Joo-Heon and his colleagues sneaked and regrouped in a dark alley. Seo Joo-Heon then gave them orders to work independently until they could all conquer the tomb before TBM could do so. Seo Joo-Heon did not accept Julian's request to remove his disguise on the grounds that it was in case something happened. Seo Joo-Heon explained that the roads here all led to the Tomb of Pride, and although there were many traps here, some of the traps were inactive, and Seo Joo-Heon assumed that the previous team passed this road and they failed to pass it, so this road was abandoned. Seo Joo-Heon warned them not to touch the wall that was there because it might be a trap. Seo Joo-Heon gasped because he had just thought of a new way. Seo Joo-Heon used his new power and slowly, his body disappeared from the sight of the two of them. Julian and Seo were surprised to see Seo Joo-Heon, who suddenly disappeared from before them. But Seo Joo-Heon did not disappear completely, and he tried to bring himself closer to the wall that he believed to be one of the traps. But when he touched the wall, nothing happened there. Even the traps that were supposed to come out did not appear and attack Seo Joo-Heon. Seo Joo-Heon was very happy to know the advantage he had now, where he could not be detected by all kinds of traps. After Seo Joo-Heon successfully used his new abilities, he became undetectable by all kinds of traps there. After being satisfied trying out his new strength, Seo Joo-Heon again made himself appear, making Seo surprised at the new power of Seo Joo-Heon. Julian didn't even understand how Seo Joo-Heon could do that without using relics. Seo Joo-Heon didn't want to answer that, and he only explained that he was now undetectable by various traps. Julian didn't want to believe that. Then Seo Joo-Heon took the initiative to check it himself, this time without using his powers. And true to what Seo Joo-Heon suspected, the trap began to activate shortly after Seo Joo-Heon activated it. Fortunately, Seo Joo-Heon, who had good reflexes, so he could avoid the trap, after feeling satisfied because he had succeeded in proving it to Julian. Seo Joo-Heon was now sure that he really could not be detected if he used his power. Then Seo Joo-Heon asked the two of them to wait in that place. Meanwhile, on the other side of the road, there was a group led by another soldier. They were all compact not to touch anything there. But unfortunately for them, because in front of them several monsters began to appear and prepare to attack. They were all surprised to see the monsters that had sprung up there, which they assumed were monsters from the trap. The monsters, without waiting long, began to attack the group of soldiers there, and before the monster's sword managed to slash their leader, the man quickly avoided it by jumping backwards. Everyone there was ready to attack, but it seemed that they were attacked so thoroughly by the monsters that they had to retreat. Meanwhile, Seo Joo-Heon, who saw it all, just smiled happily, because from the beginning he was the one who caused the trap to activate, and thanks to using that skill, Seo Joo-Heon was able to retreat quickly as soon as he saw the trap he activated had attacked the soldiers there. Besides that, in that tomb there are currently very many traps, and is one of the tombs that has the most traps that Seo Joo-Heon has ever visited. The traps even vary from several different countries of origin and cultures in each trap. Seen Seo Joo-Heon, who ran after successfully activating another trap. He deliberately did that to hinder the pace of TBM soldiers, and now after feeling enough, Seo Joo-Heon returned to venturing to activate other traps and disturb TBM soldiers. Meanwhile, with Yoon Si-woo, there was a look of surprise and panic on his face when he saw several large rocks falling from nowhere, raining on his soldiers below. Yoon Si-woo quickly told his soldiers to immediately find a safe place and take refuge there. But it seemed that another chaos began to arrive when there were several people who blamed Yoon Si-woo. They all blamed TBM for giving incorrect information because the trap here began to activate and hurt the other team. They even mentioned Seo Joo-Heon, which managed to make Yoon Si-woo furious. Just hearing the name of the man, Yoon Si-woo was even more convinced that this was all the work of Seo Joo-Heon, and became proof that Seo Joo-Heon was indeed here. Meanwhile, the perpetrator reunited with his teammates. Julian did not understand why Seo Joo-Heon was so cruel, but Seo Joo-Heon did not mind it and only did it for the reason of avenging CEO Kwon. And after that, Seo Joo-Heon planned to immediately start his looting and empty the tomb. In a hospital, there was a scream from someone. It turned out that the voice came from CEO Kwon, who was still sick. The guards there did not dare to approach CEO Kwon because if they did that, then they would be controlled and attacked CEO Kwon. But one of the guards there was very worried about the condition of CEO Kwon now. Then a loud scream came from inside the room, making the guards inevitably open the door to his room and checked the state of CEO Kwon. How surprised they were when they saw several objects flying before his eyes. And the flying objects were proof that CEO Kwon used his power. Even there were several relics belonging to CEO Kwon flying, while the relic that resided in the body of CEO Kwon asked the guards for help because if not then CEO Kwon would die. CEO Kwon asked the guards to bring him people who can use the relic well, and right after the chaos, Joshua arrived suddenly and asked what exactly happened to CEO Kwon's room. Joshua instead belittled CEO Kwon and asked CEO Kwon to use the relic. CEO Kwon was furious at Joshua's words and he was upset now. CEO Kwon asked what the purpose of Joshua's arrival to his room. Joshua also said that he dreamed of Seo Joo-Heon and explained that Seo Joo-Heon was now in CEO Kwon's excavation team. Joshua then explained about the King of Detection team who resigned from the TBM section, but CEO Kwon did not care about it. Hearing that Joshua now knows why the investigation cannot be carried out, and it makes CEO Kwon confused. Because the investigation team could not find any clues, Joshua got another dream about Seo Joo-Heon, and this time not only the CEO Kwon team, but he will also get the impact of Seo Joo-Heon, seeing the incident where Seo Joo-Heon massacred the team belonging to CEO Kwon. CEO Kwon didn't even want to take responsibility for what happened to his team, making Joshua even more upset. CEO Kwon then explained that the King of Detection had done a previous check and he couldn't find the presence of Seo Joo-Heon in his team. CEO Kwon was very upset and asked Joshua if he had gone to the Pentagon, because at the Pentagon there was some looting carried out by the team from Pandora and other teams. CEO Kwon finally decided to ask for help from Pandora and ask for an alliance with them as soon as possible, because CEO Kwon felt that this time they had a common enemy, Seo Joo-Heon. CEO Kwon also asked Joshua to always tell his prophecy to him, because according to CEO Kwon, there is nothing wrong if Joshua tries it continuously and maybe in one of his dreams he can see Seo Joo-Heon dying or even dead. Now CEO Kwon is very angry and annoyed with Seo Joo-Heon, who keeps giving him problems. What will CEO Kwon do? What will be the fate of Seo Joo-Heon next?